I watched my boss, Marcus, stumble out of his office for the fourth time that morning, clutching his stomach and rushing toward the bathroom. His face had turned an interesting shade of green, and the confidence he usually wore like armor was nowhere to be seen. 3 weeks of my special coffee blend was finally teaching him the lesson his MBA never did. My name is Jake Mitchell. I'm 24 years old, and until recently, I was the most overworked, underpaid junior marketing coordinator at Prestige Advertising Solutions. Fresh out of college with student loans breathing down my neck, I thought I'd landed my dream job. What I actually found was a nightmare disguised as professional opportunity. I adjusted my tie and went back to organizing files, trying not to smile too widely as another urgent bathroom trip echoed from down the hallway. The abuse started my second week on the job. Marcus Brewster, our creative director, was 35 years old with the kind of artificially inflated ego that comes from managing people half his age. "Mitchell, I need you to stay late tonight to finish the Henderson campaign," he announced on a Friday at 6 p.m., just as I was packing up. "The client presentation is Monday morning." "Sure, no problem," I replied, still eager to prove myself. "Should I submit overtime for the additional hours?" Marcus laughed like I'd told him a hilarious joke. "Overtime? Kid, your salary. That means you work until the job gets done, not until the clock says you can go home." What he didn't mention was that my salary was barely above minimum wage when calculated hourly, and that staying late would become a weekly expectation. The weekend work started a month later. Every Friday, Marcus would dump urgent projects on my desk with deadlines that could only be met by working Saturday and Sunday. "Welcome to the real world, Mitchell," he said, leaning back in his expensive chair. "This is how careers are built. You put in the extra effort now, and maybe in 5 years, you'll have earned the right to delegate to someone else. But the employee handbook says..." "The employee handbook is for people who want to stay mediocre forever," he interrupted. "I'm offering you the chance to learn from the best." I was young, naive, and terrified of losing my first real job. So I worked the weekends, every single one for 3 months straight, watching my college friends enjoy their 20s while I crafted presentations for clients I'd never meet. The breaking point came during the Morrison Industries pitch. I'd spent 6 weekends developing a comprehensive rebranding strategy. The campaign was brilliant, modern, innovative, and exactly what the client was looking for. Monday morning, I watched through the conference room glass as Marcus presented my work to the Morrison team. Every slide, every concept, every carefully crafted tagline came out of his mouth as if he'd created it himself. "This integrated approach represents the kind of forward-thinking creativity that sets Prestige apart," Marcus explained, clicking through the presentation I'd built from scratch. "I've been developing this concept for weeks." The clients loved it. They signed a $200,000 contract on the spot, praising Marcus for his visionary creativity. I sat in my cubicle, watching my boss accept congratulations for work I'd done while sacrificing every weekend for 3 months. That afternoon, Marcus called me into his office. Instead of acknowledgement, I got more demands. "Great work supporting the Morrison pitch, Mitchell," he said, as if I'd been his research assistant rather than the creative force behind the entire campaign. "I'm going to need that same level of support for the Richardson project." "Actually, I was hoping we could discuss proper compensation for the extra hours," I said carefully. Marcus's expression hardened. "Compensation? Mitchell, you're getting the best compensation possible. Experience. Do you know how many kids your age would kill for the opportunity to learn from someone with my track record? Here's some free advice. Lose the entitled attitude. Nobody owes you anything in this business. You either earn your place through hard work or you get replaced by someone hungrier. That night, I called my older brother Ryan. At 28, Ryan worked in corporate finance and had been through toxic workplace situations. "Dude, you're being exploited," Ryan said bluntly. "This isn't normal mentorship. This is wage theft." But what if he's right? What if this is just how the industry works? "Jake, good managers don't steal their employees' weekends and take credit for their work. This guy is using you." Ryan paused. Sometimes these types need to learn that actions have consequences, make his life a little more complicated until he starts appreciating what he has. The plan started small and subtle. Marcus had specific habits that made him predictable, and predictability creates opportunities. Every morning at exactly 9:15 a.m., Marcus would send me to the coffee shop across the street to get his daily large dark roast with 2 sugars. It was one of his many ways of asserting dominance, making the college graduate fetch coffee like an intern. The first week, I simply started using decaf instead of regular coffee. Marcus was a caffeine addict who drank 4 cups before noon, so switching to decaf created withdrawal symptoms disguised as a mysterious illness. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he complained to HR. "I've been exhausted all week." Week 2, I introduced sugar-free sweetener that had a mild laxative effect in large quantities. Not enough to cause serious problems, just enough to make his mornings unpredictable and uncomfortable. The beautiful thing about my approach was its plausible deniability. Marcus never suspected his coffee because I was the one fetching it for him. The symptoms seemed random. Some days better, some days worse, depending on how creative I felt that morning. Meanwhile, he kept piling on the weekend work. But something had changed in me. Instead of feeling defeated by each new demand, I felt empowered. Every unreasonable deadline just meant another morning of special blend coffee was justified. "Mitchell, you're really stepping up lately," Marcus said during week 3, apparently mistaking my newfound calm for enthusiasm. "Just trying to learn from the best," I replied with a straight face, watching him take a long sip of his morning coffee. The turning point came during the Richardson presentation. Just like with Morrison Industries, I'd spent weeks crafting every element, while Marcus focused on golf and client dinners. As Marcus stood up to present my work to the Richardson executives, his stomach chose that exact moment to revolt. 3 weeks of my special coffee blend had trained his digestive system to expect chaos at the worst possible moments. "Excuse me," he said, his face suddenly pale. "I need to step out for just a moment." He rushed from the conference room, leaving me alone with 6 confused executives and a presentation that I knew better than he did. "Should we wait?" asked the Richardson CEO. I stood up, straightened my tie, and smiled. "Actually, I can walk you through the campaign. I developed all the strategic components." For the next 30 minutes, I presented my own work properly for the first time. The Richardson team was impressed with my knowledge and passion for their brand. "This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need," the CEO said as we wrapped up. "Jake, I'd like to discuss having you personally manage our account going forward." When Marcus finally returned, looking haggard and embarrassed, the deal was already done. But now it was my relationship with the client, not his. The aftermath was swift and satisfying. The Richardson Industries contract included a specific request that I be the primary point of contact, effectively removing Marcus from the equation. Word was spreading in our industry about a talented newcomer named Jake Mitchell. Within 2 months, I received 3 job offers from competing agencies. All of them offered significantly higher salaries, better benefits, and actual respect for work-life balance. I accepted the best offer and gave my 2 weeks' notice on a Friday afternoon. Marcus looked genuinely shocked when I handed him my resignation letter. "Mitchell, if this is about wanting more recognition, we can discuss adjusting your role," he said desperately. "It's not about recognition," I replied calmly. "It's about working somewhere that values talent instead of exploiting it." I smiled, thinking about all those morning coffee runs. Time to move on to better opportunities. 6 months later, I was settled into my new job as senior marketing strategist, earning twice my previous salary and working for a boss who actually knew my name. I had weekends again, real benefits, and colleagues who treated me like a professional. I heard through industry contacts that Marcus was struggling at prestige. Without my uncredited work to present as his own, his performance had declined noticeably. He'd also developed chronic digestive issues that his doctor couldn't quite explain. I never told anyone about the coffee. Some lessons are more effective when the student doesn't realize they're being taught. Marcus had wanted to educate me about the real world of professional exploitation. Instead, he'd learned that underestimating people has consequences. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's simply making someone's life a little more complicated until they develop enough perspective to treat people better.